Coach Pilardi here. Today we're going to talk about CAD. This is the first in a series of lessons that'll teach you CAD for VEX Robotics using Onshape. We're going to start out by creating an Onshape account. Then we're going to open an existing project in Onshape. We're going to navigate around inside the project, and we're going to make our own copy of the project, or workspace as they call it in Onshape. So before we create your Onshape account, let's talk about why you would want to use CAD. So CAD is a great skill to learn. If you end up doing any type of design work after you graduate, chances are you're going to use a tool similar to CAD or CAD to design cars, or if you're an architect, to design buildings. Even deck builders would use that. City planners would use that. Even designers of games, computer games, would use a CAD-like tool to develop a virtual 3D environment. So there's a lot of things you could use CAD skills for later on in life. But we don't need to look that far ahead today. We just want to use CAD for VEX. Once you get good at CAD, it's much easier to develop a robot design than it is just building something and trial and error through building. Have you ever heard of robot in 3 days, or RI3D? That's where a team builds a robot in 3 days. They have 3 days to come up with a working robot. And every year when the new game comes out, there's a lot of teams that come up with a robot in 3 days. It's just their idea of what a robot could do with the new game. There's also something called CAD in 3 hours. After they come up with a new game, teams that have someone that's good at CAD will try and design a robot in CAD within 3 hours. So robot in 3 days, the unit of measurement is days. If you know how to do CAD, the unit of measurement is hours. If you have an idea, it's much easier to come up with your initial design using CAD than it is by trying to build a real robot. If you're familiar with building robots and using your own designs, then you know it takes a lot of tries before you get something right, and we call those iterations. So you might go through 10 or 12 different iterations before you get something to work. If you start off by building a CAD model first, it's going to reduce the number of iterations, and it's much quicker to do an iteration in CAD than it is in building an actual robot. So that's another reason why you would use CAD for VEX. If you're good at CAD, it's much easier to explain your ideas as well. I don't know how many times I've talked to somebody and they're trying to explain an idea that they have, and I just don't understand what they're trying to do. You've probably had a teammate like that too. And it might be a great idea. They just have trouble expressing it, and especially if you're not good at drawing by hand. And of course, if you're good at CAD, you can print off your designs and put them in your notebook, and judges love to see that sort of stuff. So that's why you would use CAD for robotics, but why would you use Onshape? There's a lot of different CAD packages out there. Why did we decide to use Onshape? Well, the main reason is that it's a web-based product, so there really is no install. Other products that I've used, the packages have a big install, and I have very few students that actually get past the install. With Onshape, well, we're gonna install Onshape right now, and it's only going to take a couple minutes. The hardware requirements are lighter for Onshape too. You don't need a specialized desktop to run Onshape. You can run it on just about any laptop. It runs on Macs. It even runs on iPads, and you can run it on your phone too. Onshape is also easy to learn, and that makes it most suitable for VEX. In VEX, you do a lot of connecting parts, and Onshape is really easy at connecting parts. So Onshape is a good match for VEX. And last of all, it's free. Most of the packages have educational licenses, but you have to go through a lot of hoops to get these special licenses, and then you have to keep renewing them. With Onshape, it's really easy. So let's see how we create an Onshape account. First, you're going to need to go to the Onshape website, and I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. The address is Onshape, onshape.com/edu. Once you get there, the screen should look like this. Press the button here that says Create Free Account. Once you press that, you're going to enter your name. Let's create And most of you are going to be students. If you're an educator, you would select educator. I'm going to set this up as a grade school account. I'm going to say I agree to that. If you're a student, you should use your student email account. Use your real name for this. I already have an account, so I can't recreate it. Put your school name here. You'll need to know your school website and your graduation year. If you're under 13, talk to your mom and dad, and they're going to fill this out with you, or if you're at school, with your teacher. Check all these boxes. It's kind of funny that I'm not a robot. Okay, so it's going to send an email to that address that you put in there, and I'm going to go ahead and check my email. So this is what that email looked like when I got it. Your Onshape account is ready. Activate your account. It's going to ask for a password. Now I'm going to check this box to agree to the terms and get started. The first time you log in, you're going to need to set your default units. In VEX, we use inches, so that's pretty easy. Press next. Then it's going to ask you if you want to change the way the mouse buttons work. I think you should just press next unless you're used to using some other CAD package. Now enter your name. Please use your real name or something close to your real name, so when I get messages within Onshape from you, I know who you are. Then it's going to check your browser. Hopefully everything's okay. If it's not, if you get some sort of error here, you might need to talk to your coach, your teacher, and we'll probably have to send you to IT to get that fixed. It's all good, then just press done. Okay, so now we're logged into Onshape. If your screen is empty like mine is right here, that means you're not a member of any team, but you should be if you're one of my students. So if you're not on a team, let me know, and we'll get you added. If you have been added to a team, your screen should look more like this. So in the center of your screen, you should see projects that were created by members of the team that you're a part of. The teams drop down on the left-hand side of the screen should list the teams that you're a member of. So if you're in the NDP VEX program, you're going to be part of that VEX Robotics and NDP team. You should also be on the VEX team that you actually compete with too. So in this case, it would be 3333X. There's a folder called Sample Drivetrains. Let's take a look at that first. And so you can see there's quite a few different sample drivetrains in here. We're going to look at this one called Basic 4-Motor Drivetrain. Go ahead and open that up. So here's a drivetrain. It's in three-dimensional space, and you can hover around in there. If you watch my cursor, there should be a green arrow around it. I'm holding my right button down on the mouse and moving my cursor around on the screen, and that's causing the robot to rotate. So you can move it around like that. Scrolling the wheel on your mouse will zoom in and out, and if you hold the Alt key down and press the right key, you can pan left and right. So if you need to move things around, you can do that. You can flip to the bottom. Now would be a good time to pause the video and try that out yourself. You're going to be doing a lot of that in a 3D CAD mouse. So you need to be able to navigate around within the design. If I want to zoom to see a closer look at that square, I need to be able to do so quickly. So you'll get practice with that. If you look in the upper right hand corner, you'll see this little cube here, and if you press on top, you get a top view. Press on these corners and it gives you a different isometric view: left, right, bottom. Give me the bottom. I'll have to do it this way. Okay, and then this cube over here gives you some predefined views of it. Isometric, you can zoom to fit. You can have these different things where it's like a sketch mode, or shaded without edges, so it's more realistic. So try those things too. When you're looking at a design that you don't own, you're just looking at somebody else's design, which is the case here, you get these icons at the bottom. Normally you're working on your own design, so we're not going to get into any detail on these icons. Instead, we're going to make a copy of this. So press the Make a Copy button. You can get to it there, or you can press Copy Workspace up here. They both do the same thing. And you give it a name. I just called mine Copy. Pretty creative. Now that I have my own copy, I can make changes. You're not going to need to save this workspace, so you can do whatever you want to with this design at this point. So don't worry about breaking it. You really can't break it. So you can do things like select something over here and then say delete. I'm going to delete the battery now. Some of these things are connected. So for instance, I can't just delete the motor because it's part of another part named a drive sandwich by pressing these tabs down here. So this is called an assembly, and this whole design is made up at the highest level. We have a chassis, and you could have something larger than the chassis, like the entire robot if you had something on top of the chassis. And it goes down to a wheel assembly and even a commonly used nut and bolt. So you can make changes to these, or you could, with inside this whole thing, delete an entire drive sandwich. Boom. Or I can take this drive sandwich and move it around. You get these little arrows once you select something. So I can move it like that. Now if you select something that's a part of an assembly, like this beam here is part of that assembly, when I move the beam, the whole assembly moves. If I wanted to move just the beam, I could go in here. Actually, I'd have to go in here, I think, because even that drive sandwich is made up of 2 drive rails, and so here's a drive rail, and we could move it from there. So go ahead and rip this design apart and twist things around and see what you can do. Don't worry about breaking anything. So that's it for level 1. You've created an Onshape account now. Congratulations, you're an Onshape user. You have your own copy of a basic 4-motor drivetrain, which probably doesn't work anymore because you ripped it apart. But that's okay. That's okay. That's what we wanted to do, and we had fun doing it. And now you're ready for level 2.